I know it's something that I can't control. When they go to that monitor, it's literally out of our hands at that point. So I really can't harp on it. I think the biggest thing is how we can continue to either keep the momentum on our side or shift the momentum the best way we can. And of course, reviews and everything is going to get in the way. But at the same time, we shouldn't even be putting ourselves in situations to have to be reviewed, even though some calls may be a little skeptical. But I know we just got to continue to focus on us, and that's something we can't control, so we can't really harp on.
The final buzzer ended the game, but it was everything that followed that quickly became the center of attention. Indiana's convincing win over the Las Vegas Aces immediately sparked conversations across the WNBA, not just about the score, but about what it might mean moving forward. Before diving into the opinions that spread online, it's important to begin with what is confirmed. The Fever earned a statement victory, and afterward, Aya Wilson addressed the media by focusing on execution, momentum, and the areas where her team needed to improve rather than placing the outcome on any single outside factor. Wilson acknowledged that officiating reviews were outside the team's control, adding that the Aces should avoid putting themselves in situations where those reviews become a deciding factor. Instead, she repeatedly brought the conversation back to communication, defensive discipline, and maintaining momentum during difficult stretches of the game. Those remarks became one of the first verified pieces of evidence available after the loss, even as countless opinions began circulating online. That distinction matters because almost immediately, social media, sports commentary, and fan discussions began moving in different directions. Some viewers focused on Indiana's performance and Caitlin Clark's influence on the game. Others debated what Wilson's comments revealed about the Aces' mindset. Still others argued that the story had expanded beyond basketball altogether, pulling in conversations about league narratives, media coverage, and the growing spotlight surrounding the WNBA. The result was that a single regular season game evolved into a much broader discussion, with facts, opinions, and interpretations often appearing side by side. The central question, then, isn't simply why Indiana won by such a convincing margin. It's why this particular game generated so much attention after the final whistle. Was it the size of the victory, the growing rivalry between two of the league's biggest storylines, or the public reaction that followed Wilson's post-game remarks? Before exploring those competing explanations, the first step is understanding exactly how the Fever were able to control the game from the opening minutes and why the matchup unfolded so differently from what many expected. The final score alone doesn't explain why Indiana looked in control for so much of the night. The Fever's performance was built on a combination of ball movement, spacing, and timely shooting that repeatedly forced Las Vegas out of its preferred defensive rhythm. Rather than relying on one player to carry the offense, Indiana consistently created advantages by moving the ball until an open opportunity appeared, making it difficult for the Aces to recover once the defense began to rotate. Caitlin Clark played a major role in that process. Her ability to read defensive coverages and deliver passes into open space kept Indiana's offense flowing, while the team's perimeter shooting made every defensive mistake more costly. As the Fever connected from beyond the arc, Las Vegas was forced to stretch its defense farther from the basket, opening driving lanes and creating even more room for quick ball movement. Each successful possession built momentum, and Indiana maintained that pressure by continuing to trust the same offensive approach instead of forcing difficult shots. From the defensive side, Indiana also made life uncomfortable for the Aces. Closeouts on shooters, active help defense, and consistent pressure on the ball limited the clean offensive possessions Las Vegas normally relies on. Those adjustments disrupted the rhythm that has been a hallmark of the Aces' offense during their most successful stretches, forcing them into more one-on-one situations than they typically prefer. Interestingly, Wilson's own post-game assessment closely reflected many of those on-court observations. She pointed to communication breakdowns on defense, explaining that players were not always on the same page during Indiana's scoring runs, which led to open perimeter looks. She also said that once the defense was broken down off the dribble, help defenders were forced to rotate, allowing Indiana to make the extra pass for catch-and-shoot three-pointers. On offense, Wilson acknowledged that the Aces became too stagnant and were drawn into playing isolation basketball instead of the team-oriented system that has defined their success. She emphasized that those issues were areas the team could address before the next meeting rather than suggesting the outcome was caused by factors outside their control. That perspective presents an interesting contrast to many of the reactions that followed the game. While outside commentary quickly expanded into broader debates, Wilson's own explanation remained centered on execution, adjustments, and basketball fundamentals. The question, then, becomes whether the public conversation reflected what was actually said after the game, or whether the narrative had already begun taking on a life of its own. As the discussion surrounding the game continued to grow, many of the strongest headlines centered on interpretations of A'ja Wilson's reaction. But before weighing those claims, it's worth returning to the one source everyone can evaluate directly: Wilson's own post-game press conference. Her comments provide a clearer picture of where she believed the game was won and lost, and they offer a useful contrast to many of the narratives that quickly emerged online. When asked about officiating reviews, Wilson acknowledged that some calls could be frustrating, but she made it clear that those moments were ultimately outside the team's control. Rather than dwelling on them, she emphasized that the Aces needed to maintain momentum regardless of how reviews unfolded. She added that the team should avoid putting itself in situations where replay decisions become a major factor, repeatedly bringing the focus back to execution instead of external circumstances. Wilson took the same approach when discussing Indiana's offensive success. She pointed to communication lapses on defense, explaining that players occasionally saw the same possession differently, leading to missed assignments and open shooters. In her view, those breakdowns, not a single moment or controversial call, allowed the Fever to find a rhythm that became increasingly difficult to disrupt. She also noted that once Indiana beat defenders off the dribble, the Aces were forced to overhelp, creating the extra passes that resulted in open three-point opportunities. Her assessment became even more personal when she evaluated her own performance. Wilson admitted she was unhappy with most of the shots she took, saying she was satisfied with only a small number of her attempts. She explained that Indiana's defensive approach pushed Las Vegas into more one-on-one basketball than the Aces typically play, leading to stagnant possessions that worked against the team's offensive identity. Rather than suggesting the loss reflected a larger crisis, she described it as an issue of spacing, movement, and execution that the team would study and correct before the next meeting. Taken together, those remarks paint a measured picture of accountability centered on basketball adjustments. Yet despite the relatively straightforward message coming from the podium, the online conversation quickly expanded into much broader debates about leadership, media narratives, and the meaning of the defeat. That raises an important question: if Wilson's own comments focused on execution and improvement, what caused the public reaction to become so intensely divided? By this point, the conversation had clearly moved beyond the box score. What began as analysis of Indiana's performance gradually expanded into broader discussions about player popularity, media coverage, and how different stars are perceived across the league. Those topics were already part of ongoing WNBA conversations before this matchup, but the game's outcome gave them new momentum and placed them back at the center of public attention. One of the most discussed subjects involved comments about race and visibility in professional basketball. The transcript includes remarks from A'ja Wilson reflecting on the challenges she believes black women face in receiving recognition, saying that race plays a role in how accomplishments are perceived and marketed. Those are Wilson's stated views and represent her perspective on a broader issue extending beyond a single game. The transcript also includes separate comments from Kelsey Plum discussing the expectations she experienced entering the league, including her observation that arriving as a highly publicized white player created unique pressures in a league where most players are black women. Those remarks likewise reflect Plum's personal experience rather than an objective conclusion about every player or every situation. Once those quotes began circulating, public reaction became sharply divided. Some fans viewed the comments as an honest discussion about race, visibility, and marketing within professional sports. Others believed the focus should have remained on basketball and argued that the post-game conversation was drifting away from the actual matchup. Still others saw the discussion as evidence of larger cultural debates that extend well beyond the WNBA itself. Those responses represent differing public interpretations, not established facts. That distinction is important because verified quotes, media analysis, social media reactions, and personal opinions are not interchangeable. The players' statements are matters of public record, while the conclusions drawn from those statements vary widely depending on the commentator or audience. Separating those categories allows viewers to evaluate the evidence without assuming every interpretation carries the same weight. What is clear is that Indiana's victory became a catalyst for a much larger conversation than anyone anticipated. Instead of ending with the final buzzer, the game reignited debates about perception, coverage, and the league's evolving spotlight. With both teams expected to remain contenders, the next meeting between the Fever and the Aces is likely to be viewed through the lens of everything that has been said since this one ended. It's often tempting to treat one nationally discussed game as a defining moment, especially when emotions are still running high. But history shows that legacies in professional sports are rarely built, or undone, in a single night. While Indiana's performance deserved the attention it received, placing the entire weight of a player's career on one result overlooks the larger body of work that came before it. Aya Wilson entered this matchup as one of the most accomplished players in the WNBA. Her resume, built over multiple seasons of elite production, league honors, and championship success, has already secured her place among the league's most influential stars. That context doesn't disappear because of one difficult loss. At the same time, expectations naturally become higher for players who have reached that level. Every defeat is analyzed more closely, every post-game comment is examined in greater detail, and every performance is measured against an exceptionally high standard. The same is true for Caitlin Clark, whose arrival has brought unprecedented attention to the league. As her profile continues to grow, each standout performance is viewed through a much wider lens than the game itself. Supporters see confirmation of her potential, critics search for weaknesses, and every marquee matchup becomes another opportunity for competing narratives to develop. That level of scrutiny is one of the realities that accompanies becoming one of the sport's biggest names. Because both players occupy such prominent positions, games between the Fever and the Aces naturally attract more attention than an ordinary regular season contest. Fans are not only watching the scoreboard, they're evaluating leadership, coaching adjustments, team identity, and what each result might suggest about the league's future. Those conversations often extend well beyond what can actually be concluded from a single matchup. Whether this game ultimately becomes remembered as a genuine turning point or simply another chapter in an evolving rivalry will depend on what happens next. Future meetings, postseason opportunities, and each team's ability to respond over the course of the season will provide far more meaningful evidence than any immediate reaction. That uncertainty is precisely what makes the next chapter so compelling, because the biggest questions raised by this game remain unanswered. As the conversation surrounding this game continues, it's helpful to separate what is known from what remains open to interpretation. The confirmed facts are straightforward. Indiana earned a convincing victory. The Fever's ball movement and perimeter shooting consistently challenged Las Vegas, and Aya Wilson's post-game comments focused on execution, communication, and the need to improve rather than assigning blame to factors outside the team's control. Everything beyond those facts is where opinions begin to diverge. Some observers see the game as evidence that the Fever have taken a significant step forward and are capable of challenging the league's established contenders on a consistent basis. Others view it as one difficult night for a championship-caliber team that has repeatedly shown an ability to respond after setbacks. Neither perspective can be confirmed by a single regular season result, which is why the next phase of the season becomes so important. The upcoming meetings between these teams will likely receive even greater attention than this one. Coaches will have more film to study, defensive strategies will evolve, and both teams will have an opportunity to respond to the adjustments that shape this matchup. For Indiana, the challenge will be proving that this performance reflects a sustainable formula rather than one exceptional night. For Las Vegas, the focus will be on demonstrating the adjustments Wilson described after the game and showing whether those lessons translate into better execution on the court. That is what makes this rivalry so compelling going forward. The headlines surrounding this game may eventually fade, but the questions it raised will remain until both teams meet again. Did this matchup signal a genuine shift in the WNBA's competitive landscape, or will it be remembered as one dramatic chapter in a rivalry that still has many twists ahead? The answer won't come from commentary or social media alone, it will come from what happens the next time these two teams step onto the court.